Welcome to another edition of the podcast known as Blending the Family. I am your host, Tommy Maloney. And if this is your first time listening to this podcast, well, thank you for coming by. So, on this podcast, in the past, we've talked about apps for co-parenting. We've talked about men's mental health. And on today's episode, we have a return guest, Terry Gaspard. Terry was actually on, I have this written down, she was on episode 28. Episode 28. That's how long it has been since Terry's been on this podcast. Her new book is called The Remarriage Manual, How to Make Everything Work Better the Second Time Around. And I am thrilled to share this episode with you. But I'm gonna hit pause on that. I am coming to you from the home office, not my home office, my wife's home office, my wife Ann's home office, because in her office, this is where we have the Ethernet cord, good English, Tommy, and all the Wi-Fi connections, even though Wi-Fi doesn't do me any good because I'm a moron. I had tried to fix my laptop in a hotel. The Wi-Fi was being wonky, and I read something on Google on how to fix it. Well, I not only broke it, but when I say broke it, I cannot use Wi-Fi on my computer. So one of the things that I am hopefully going to be doing soon is getting a new laptop. This one apparently is, I didn't realize this, 9 years old. I've had this laptop for 9 years. And Mac, or Apple, I should say, Apple has a new MacBook Pros coming out. So hopefully I can save some money and get a new laptop. How are you doing? You doing good? Man, I'm excited. Because I just got done recording this, and I'm turning this around. Normally, give you a peek behind the curtain. Normally, what I'll do is I'll record the interview, and then wait, and then start. I wait a couple of days or what have you. If I already have some other episodes already in as we say in the biz, in the can. We have them already pre-recorded and ready to go. So I have Terry's. I just recorded Terry, and I'm going to turn around and get this up the next day. The next day for Podcast Friday, as I like to call it. What else is going on? Man, I have been home this week. Part of the reason why is I am not doing my silent partner. So silent partner is what I call my day job, my silent partner. Because I need to change my mindset. I need to stop being negative, because without having a day job, I might not be able to afford to eventually get a new laptop that I'm going to save my rubles for. The reason why I'm home this week, I had an injection done to my back. I have severe back issues, and it has been causing, I don't want to say a rift with my wife and my wife Ann, but I can't sleep in our bed. So last July, I think it was 2020, in July, we got a new bed. We got new mattress, new bed. It's one of those beds that the head can raise and the feet can raise. Well, it used to, until we got a puppy named Otis, who's now a year old. Otis chewed the wire. I have to laugh, because it was an extra $300 to get the feet part adjustment, and now we can't use the adjusting at all, because again, Otis had chewed through the wire. So anyway, Had this injection done this week. The last time I had this injection done, because I have bulging discs in my back, and my back is just totally messed up, and I have no explanation why it's so messed up other than maybe playing sports. I don't know if do you call sitting on the bench 4 years in high school for soccer? Is that playing sports? I don't know. So on this past Tuesday, today is Thursday. On Tuesday, I had that injection done. Came home and I just slept. I just slept the day away. And last night, it's my calendar going off. I have a meeting in a half hour. Last night was the first night I've slept on that bed and not had any pain. So that's a good sign. That's a really good sign. So I'm excited because, like I said, my wife would like her husband. I don't know why. I mean, I'm just, what's that? I'm trying to think from Star Wars, the big guy, Jabba the Hutt. I'm just a big Jabba the Hutt with fur. And I don't know why she would want me in the same bed. But anywho, so it was nice to have no pain waking up. It was just a relief. So hopefully this injection will maintain. I had this injection done a long time ago. I want to say 7 years ago. And it lasted for like 3 years, going pain-free. I was able to do things like work out and not worry about my back. It was just so nice. And so luckily my doctor said, yeah, we can get that taken care of for you. And he did. So God bless my doctor. What else is going on? I'm happy to be home. I'm happy I've been able to do things, working on the new website. I know, I'm still working on the new website, still working on the book, My Dad's Advice at 5:04 a.m. You can pre-order the book at mydadsadvicebook.com, mydadsadvicebook.com. I'm hoping in a week or two I can make a major announcement. But I can't make that announcement until it's official. So we'll get there. So stay tuned for that. Gosh, it's just been a nice... Actually, I was off the previous week. Well, sort of. We got hit with a blizzard here in Colorado, so I was off the road. Had to take a class. Had to go to class virtually. And so I wasn't able to do the things I really wanted to do to accomplish. But that's okay. This coming weekend, the weekend of, what's today? 26th. The weekend of 26th. I get to watch The Boy, a.k.a. Connor. The Boy is the nickname the girls, his bonus sisters, call him, The Boy. Will be finishing up his hockey career with the Highland Hills Jaguars. We are going to he and I are spending the weekend together for this hockey tournament. Excited about that. Boys get to be boys. We get to stink up a hotel room. We get to just, I want to say bond, but I know what's going to happen is he's going to ditch me, and that's okay. He's going to spend time with his buddies, and I get to spend some time alone or with a couple of the dads. And this is it. This has been very hard for me watching these past couple months of realizing that come August, September, he will be on his new journey. He'll be on to college, and I'm excited for him, but at the same time, I'm a parent, and I'm nervous, and it's not going to be one of those things where He'll be able to, call and say, hey, can you be here in 10 minutes? And I'll be like, no. It's going to take a couple plane trips to get where he's going to college. As Otis just walked into the office. Oh, good, he's walking out. Because my wife has these note cards all over her office, and I have to keep Otis out of her office to make sure he doesn't disrupt the note card thingies. I gave him a new bone today. He got a new rawhide bone. He's a good guy. He's a good dog. We love him. So there you go. I've rambled on for 10 minutes. But let's get back to Terry Gaspard. Her new book, again, The Remarriage Manual, How to Make Everything Work Better the Second Time Around. I took, before her and I even talk, I have these notes. I have 3 pages of notes. And then in the book, I have the book right here, my autographed copy of the book, The Remarriage Manual. And I have these little, those Post-it notes that, when you sign documents and they have the arrow looking Post-it notes? Well, mine are square. And I have all these Post-it notes inside this book. So the book, the way the book, she wrote this book, she said it took her a few years to put this book together, and I see why. She has case studies of actual people, names have been changed to protect the innocent, talking about their relationships, and also just some great advice. And I gotta find this one page. I guess I should look at my notebook, but I don't. Here we go. All right. Let me see what chapter this is in the book. Because you should get this book. You definitely should get this book. I think this is chapter 7. Chapter 7. Don't make a big deal about nothing, but do deal with the important issues. And in this chapter 7, let me get to this page. On page 148, there's Otis barking. But we're going to let him bark for a little bit. Hold on, buddy. Hold on. Just finishing up. On page 148, it's 6 strategies for increasing communication and creating loving intimacy. And I'm going to put this in the show notes. I'm going to have to type this. 6 strategies for increasing communication and creating loving intimacy. Number 1, be sure you first understand and then seek to be understood. Number 2, freely communicate your admiration and fondness for your partner. For example, you might say, you are such a special person and I am lucky to have you as a partner. Number 3, and we talk about this on this episode. Number 3, catch your partner doing something right and compliment them for it. I am so excited about that one. I got to turn off my phone real quick. I need to do that more often. I need to do that for my wife, Ann. Catch your partner doing something right and compliment them. Number 4, practice offering mutual gratitude on a regular basis. For instance, you might say, I'm so grateful that you work so hard and I can see you had a hard day. And my wife is so good at that. She is so good at that. Number 5, turn toward your partner. Look for opportunities when they make a bid for attention, affection, or any other type of positive communication. Overtures often display themselves in basic but powerful ways, such as a smile or a pat on the shoulder. Number 6. This one, other than, in my view, number 3 was really important. Number 6, Terry brought this up. And number 6 is for the 6 strategies for increasing communication and creating loving intimacy. Remind yourself of your partner's positive qualities and express your positive feelings out loud several times each day. In the Science of Trust, Emotional Attunement for Couples, John Gottman suggests increasing the number of positive comments you make to your partner in order to establish a good relationship. Listen to their point of view and adopt his rule of maintaining a 5-to-1 ratio of interactions. For every negative interaction, you need 5 positive ones. That's for parenting as well. Duh. Okay? The other thing I want to bring up before I have you hear Terry's conversation with me. What chapter is this? Chapter 6. Chapter 6 titled, Get Sexy and Fall in Love All Over Again. Sorry, Otis is... Where's your bone, bud? Okay, you got your bone. Good. All right. Chapter 6. What is this? This is Building a Great Sex Life in a... Blah, blah, blah. Building a great sex life is about emotional connection. So she has examples in chapter 6. Number 1, and this is why it's number 1. This you should be doing on a regular basis. And I put this in my book, 25 Tips for Divorced Dads, for our kids. Guess what? We need to do this for our significant other, and that is just say, I love you every day. My gosh, how simple is that? The other thing I want to mention is in this list, again, this is chapter 6, which again the title is Get Sexy and Fall in Love All Over Again. They make sex a priority, not just the last item of a long to-do list. So the way I interpret this with Terry is, it's the end of the day, you're both going to bed, all right, we're here. No, it doesn't have to be the last thing. You could start your day off. You could come home for lunch if you both can. You know, if you're in a rut, and Terry has some suggestions, go take a trip. Do a day trip. Go camping. Do something. Check in a hotel. Just do something, okay? I am so excited, okay? I am going to shut up because this Terry brings so much information in this book, the Remarriage Manual, that I have to share this with you. So, anywho, thank you for listening. Again, please support me on my journey of being an author for my third book, My Dad's Advice at 5:04 a.m. You can pick up that book at the website mydadsadvicebook.com, mydadsadvicebook.com. All right, as Terry Crews, apparently there's a theme of Terry here, just like you're about to hear. There was a theme in her book, which I find ironic. As Terry Crews would say, your success is my success. That's all I have to say. Well, how are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm doing really well. In spite of the pandemic, I've been thriving because sadly my private practice, it's good for me, but not good for others. That my private practice has really been booming.
I don't know how to respond to that other than I guess it's good.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I know. But it's good to keep busy, and my book is doing really well. My second book is, I think it's touching a nerve with a lot of people.
Well, let's get into it. Are you ready, Terry?
I'm ready, but how are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm talking to you. I look back, and when you wrote your first book, Daughters of Divorce, that was episode 28.
Wow.
And let's see, where am I? We're getting close to 200 episodes.
That's fantastic. So you have quite an audience?
I have one or two.
I love the humor. Yeah, and you're writing a book yourself, right?
Yeah, the third book, My Dad's Advice at 5:04 a.m. Well, I'm close. I just need to, as somebody asked me yesterday, I just need to just focus a little bit more and I'm done. Well, I'm finishing up the last chapter, so I just have to finish up the last chapter and write, like, what's been going on since the beginning of writing the book, and then I've got a couple odds and ends, and then just goes to the editor, and we're done. We're done.
Great, great. Such an awesome feeling. My books tend to be long, so I'm always really glad when they're done, and then I always have to cut a lot of content.
Oh, yes.
That's the
Well,
part.
and that's why I really loved this new book, the Remarriage Manual: How to Make Everything Work Better the Second Time Around. And I am going to say the second time around is better in my opinion as well.
Great.
Um, you have the book has in correct me if I'm wrong, but these are case studies.
Yes, I interviewed 100 couples, and they came to me through word of mouth mostly, and also through my clinical practice and through colleagues who work with couples. And they flocked pretty much once I invited them. They came quickly, and often they wanted to be interviewed more than once. They were eager to tell their stories. So it turned out really well that my average age was 42. So they weren't, they weren't really young, but they were actively um, living in step families or blended families, and they were looking to share their story and get some tips. And so through social media and through a lot of different mechanisms, email and so on, I was able to set up all the interviews over a period of several years because, it didn't happen instantaneously, but it did evolve. So it kept me really busy. I basically wrote one chapter at a time, but I organized the chapters according to the themes that were emerging from the couples that I met with, Tommy.
Why do you think they were so eager to tell their story to essentially a stranger?
Well, I believe it's a similar sort of dynamic that my husband Craig and I experienced, and that is they were feeling kind of isolated and wondering, did other people have a similar experience? When Craig and I sought counseling when we were first married and blending the children and dealing with some of our issues, we couldn't really find anyone as a therapist or any support groups to assist us. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to write the book, because I was really blindsided by some of the challenges, being in my early 40s, having two children, and then we had another child, and just the blending of our two different worlds. And my expectations were that it was going to be a lot smoother than it was in those early years, and it certainly worked out really well for us. But when I started interviewing the couples and realizing that you really do have to build a culture of appreciation, respect, tolerance. And chapter 2, Tommy, make your remarriage a top priority.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Terry. So I have the book right here.
Uh-huh.
One thing I am going to borrow from you. I love the sticker on the front that says autograph copy. I'm borrowing that from you. But
Okay.
if you could see the book, I have these little Post-it notes all over your book.
Great.
Because you put in, I mean, through the couples you interviewed with, but you also have so much great information in there. One of the themes I did notice is the name Tommy in your book. Just
Oh,
saying,
yeah?
just saying, Terry. Could have interviewed me to add to that theme of Tommy, but we'll wait for the third book. How's that?
Well, I didn't put original names in there, so it's possible that you are in the book. I don't know. Um, None of the names of the people in the stories, including the children, they're all fictitious names. But what I did is I blended stories.
Right.
And for confidentiality purposes, my editor really sounds true, and my editor really felt that that was a good idea. That was a challenge, to try to maintain the integrity of the stories with blending more, at least two stories so that no one reading the book could recognize literally that's my story, especially since some of them are clients and even a few of them are living in my current neighborhood I run into when I'm out for a walk and so on. So I was lucky with Daughters of Divorce. I felt like I was able to blend the stories and it worked out pretty well. So I pretty much did that. So it's kind of mysterious in that way.
Well, one of the things that going through the book um, was the case study of Tommy, ironically, and Caroline. And
Uh-huh.
one of the things that I'm just like, oh my gosh, Tommy was right because I got social proof from you. You're an expert, therefore it has to be correct. But Tommy talked about in the book about not coming in his way or the highway to Caroline's kids. And I find that so important when you are starting to blend a family, when you're going through um, the dating, even the dating process, Terry, when you are introduced to the kids and
Mm-hmm.
don't come in, bringing the hammer and say, you will respect me, you will, abide by my rules. And so when I'm reading that, because I said that in a a speech years ago when I did an acceptance speech, and I was like reading this, Terry, and I'm going, oh my gosh, I was right.
Good. Well, it confirmed what you know to be true. And I know I have one of your blogs that you've written on my website, and you've spoken about those types of issues about being a mentor, being an adult friend, and it's so key. It's so key. Embracing that philosophy is major because so many step parents that I work with in my practice and online therapy and coaching and so on, they really expect things to be like an instant love situation and I'm just going to step in and they're going to follow my rules and they're going to be like my either my child that I never had, if it's a child like let's say a daughter, a stepdaughter, and they haven't had a daughter, or they want somehow the stepchild to conform to certain expectations, and that creates a lot of tension and rivalry because they're always going to compare you with their biological parent.
Uh, and yeah, and one of the things I wrote down to try and piggyback on that, Terry, is with your research and doing the research with this book and interviewing these couples, do you find, in your opinion, that men are competing against the biological dad, so the bonus dad competing with the biological dad, and are the moms competing against the are the bonus moms competing against the biological moms as well?
Well, those issues do arise. And I think the key really is awareness because you don't in any way want to try to replace that person or give your stepchild the idea that you're trying to step in and go beyond that boundary. And so you want to respect in all cases whatever relationship your stepchild has with their biological parents, and it may be rocky. I mean, oftentimes it is, and
Mm-hmm.
you want to be careful not to highlight that or make comments about it, disparaging remarks. A lot of people make very regrettable comments, Tommy, and I hear them in my office. Well, you're just like your dad, or your dad doesn't pay child support, and things like that, or your mom is overbearing, she's controlling. One of the things that's helped me so much in my own second marriage, and I've learned to help parents and step parents with, is always keep the best interests of the child, teenager, or young adult in mind. Before you open your mouth and put your foot in it and you make judgmental comments or statements, think about what that must feel like. And it doesn't really go away when your kids get a little bit older. My two older kids are young adults, and they're still sensitive to a comment here and there or whatever. And then if you do make a regrettable comment, it's such a good idea to apologize in a sincere way and say, you know what, when I said that, it was a mistake. I can see how it could have hurt your feelings or offended you. I'm going to try harder not to make those comments.
And you hit it on the head right there, Terry, because, there are times where as parents, especially divorce, you get caught up in the mindset of you're trying to compete against your former spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And it does no good to start spewing off in front of your kids those types of comments. And I learned the hard way, and I didn't realize this. And like I said, I'm coming close to 200 episodes of this podcast, and my former spouse said, our son could listen to these podcasts. And it was one of those moments, Terry, where I'm going, oh yeah. So I had to go back, and I had to apologize to her for anything I have said, because I don't think about it that way. The way I think about it is exactly like your book, the new book, the Remarriage Manual, and that is trying to help other bonus parents, other blended families by using, our family as an example.
Yeah.
And not really realizing that, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or maybe I shouldn't have used that as an example. So even though I consider myself, somewhat of a person trying to do right, I screwed up.
Well, it can happen. That's exactly what one of the main points of the Remarriage Manual, Tommy, is the complexity of remarriage and blending families. And that's, love can definitely be sweeter the second or third time around, but you have to prepare yourself, which so many people, including myself, did not, for those situations that are going to come up, that are going to catch you off guard. And even if your intention is to do well, you're sometimes going to go off course a little bit. You're not going to think of how what you say or do could be perceived by your own child. For instance, in my case, my middle daughter is very sensitive. She's, beautiful person, loves a lot of time alone and with her friends and fiance, but she also values time alone with me. And as a young adult, when we were writing Daughters of Divorce together, I said, what was one of the biggest impacts of me getting remarried upon you? And she said, I had a lot less time with you.
Ooh,
so I looked at her and I said, wow, I said, that really surprised me. I thought I always spent quite a bit of time with you. She said, well, not alone time. You started spending time with a lot of other people, including her stepdad's family, which is a very large family. And my sister, I love my little sister, but she came into the picture. And to make a long story short, I said, you know what? I'm really glad I asked you that. And I'm going to do my best to not overlook that in the future, and make a promise to you and myself that we're going to always try to carve out some time together.
So let me ask you this, Terry. After writing this book, what did you learn about yourself and your own second marriage?
I learned that I really needed to hone in on the tolerance, the respect, and the idea that I'm in this marriage for the long run. I'm not going to bail out. I'm not when things get tough. I'm not going to start thinking, oh, this isn't working out. And there's a better relationship for me out there. Being a daughter of divorce myself, I saw a lot of marriages end in my family, and I really have been working hard and learned a lot about interviewing while interviewing the couples about the importance of communication on a really deep level. I also started studying and doing a lot of trainings with Dr. John Gottman. So I've, kind of learned so much on a professional and personal level about how to really get my ideas across and have a mindset with my husband of we're in this together. Our relationship is more important than our individual points of views because we both tend to be a little opinionated when it comes to certain things. And blending the parenting styles. He tends to be a lot more traditional. His family, it's like, this is the way things are. The kids need to listen. I tend to be more like diplomatic or democratic, I guess you could say, like, well, let's hear what they have to say. So I don't assume that we're going to agree on everything. And I guess the last point is I know now that we don't have to agree on everything. I've learned so much about conflict management. I used to call it conflict resolution. Now I refer to conflict management as like is a way of being in a marriage where you you agree sometimes that you're not going to come to a resolution, but you listen, you respond in a respectful way, and you don't dig your heels in and have the mindset that you're trying to prove a point, but you're looking at, as I said, the relationship as the most important aspect of almost every conflictual situation that comes up.
Well, that's why I really love, and I truly mean this, Terry. I love your book because one of the things you have in here are the 6 strategies for increasing communication and creating loving intimacy. And one of the
Uh-huh.
things, eh, and this is one of those things that blew me away, and it's simple ideas that
Mm-hmm.
will impact your marriage. And um, number 3 is catch your partner doing something right and compliment them for it. This is not only a great example for marriage, but
Uh-huh.
also parenting. But as I was reading this, I'm going, I, not to say it's on one partner's shoulders, but I'm reading this, Terry. I'm going, I personally need to do more of that for my wife. I mean, I was in this conversation a couple weeks ago in a men's group, and one of the things
Mm-hmm.
I said was, I asked the guys, I said, how many of you, by a show of hands, because we're on a video chat, I said, how many of you, by a show of hands, have a dog? And a few of them raised their hands. I said, what's the phrase we always use around our dogs? We say, good dog, or in our case, our
Yeah.
dog, Otis, good job, Otis, for doing X. Why aren't we doing that to our partner? Not saying we're going to treat him like an animal,
Yeah.
but
Got it.
why,
Yeah.
why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we going to, you know, saying to them, thank you for doing that, or you know, I think you know where I'm going with that.
Oh yeah. I mean, we don't do that, and we just take each other for granted. And when stress hits, which it definitely has been for most of us over the last year, and even more so than in the past, you know, we totally forget about catching, our partner doing something right and complimenting them. In fact, I know myself, I found myself more critical at times and trying to protect my own territory, and finances can be tight at times, and everybody's stressed out, and using a lot of you messages, like you do this, you do that, instead of I really need to feel like we can discuss money matters more openly. Those 6 strategies, I'm really glad you pointed those out. Those work for kids, they work for family members, and certainly for couples. And I also like number 6. Remind yourself, really in your head, you don't even have to say this out loud, Tommy. Remind yourself of your partner's positive qualities a lot. And that's so key in a remarriage, because you are going to have more stress. And so you have to tell yourself, okay, what drew me to this person to begin with? They're really loving, they're, hardworking, whatever it is that you like about them. One thing I appreciate about my husband, for instance, and he was very open to me talking about him in the book, is he really truly believes that marriage is something that takes work, it takes intention, and you can't assume it's going to go well. And if you need help, you should go and get it. You should seek marriage counseling. You should talk to, a minister at your church if that's what works for you. So whenever I get angry at him sometimes, and I feel like, oh my God, this is so painful. Then that conversation we had while we were dating, and he said, I know you have kids, and I want to have one. I'd like to try to have a child with you, but I also realize that it won't be that smooth all the time. So he had a much more realistic view of things than I did.
The yin to your yang.
Yep.
And I think you bring up another valuable point. And when my wife and I were dating, she came to me and said, would you be open to going to, marriage counseling? I said, yeah, because we both came from very similar marriages where our former spouses were the money winners and they got the power. So whoever has the gold has the power.
Yep.
And I think if you want to have a successful marriage, be it your first marriage, your second marriage, I firmly believe what you just said is that you should go to therapy and talk to somebody and have, and somebody that you trust. Because I remember when my first wife and I went to marriage counseling, the first person we went to, I said to my former spouse, I said, I didn't like this person. I didn't feel that she was listening to us. She didn't have our best interests. So you can fire your counselor,
Right.
because
Exactly.
it's about the two of you. And so, but I agree with you, Terry. I think that in my view, I think we would have better marriages starting with people going to counselors. And it's the old adage, you're not going to go to talk to your friends about your marriage, because if they're as screwed up as you are, you're not going to get the response that you really should have.
Right. So true. And point 5 here in that same section of 6 strategies for increasing communication and creating loving intimacy, turning towards your partner. One of the things counseling is really good for is literally turning towards your partner. Like I tell couples, it's great that you're opening up to me and telling me what your most vulnerable thoughts and feelings are, but could you turn towards your partner and tell your husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, if you're engaged or something, how you feel or what you think. And so they can give you feedback. And that's just one point I make a lot in the book, because we don't do that enough. We're so distracted by technology, every aspect of our very fast-paced lives. So my husband, Craig, and I go for a checkup. We go for a marriage checkup once a month. We go to the same therapist that we've seen for a long time. and it's our chance to go out to dinner, go for a couple's checkup. And it has proven to be really a great opportunity to just remind us of that valuable point of turning towards each other.
I totally agree. And I am going to tell you, and I knew this was going to happen after speaking with you and again going through this book, that my marriage is going to change after today because and I want to just go back to I have it bookmarked. Where is it? Here we go. Your 6 strategies. And again, the last part of the 6th strategy, which is remind yourself of your partner's positive qualities and express your positive feelings out loud several times a day. And it says, listen to their point of view and adopt their rule of maintaining a 5-to-1 ratio of interaction. For every negative interaction, you need 5 positive ones. I used to do this, and I need to bring this back in my own marriage, and that is when I leave on a Monday morning for a trip, I used to hide little notes around the
Uh-huh.
house from my wife. I just realized I need to bring that back because
Great.
as you were saying, our world has changed, and we need more positive energy. And not to say that every day is going to be unicorns pooping Skittles, but
Right.
we do need that. And I want to piggyback on your chapter talking about emotional connection
Uh-huh.
because I find that is between the financial piece, the emotional connection, and just being present with your partner are so key. The say I love you every day. I wrote that in my first book,
Uh-huh.
25 tips for divorced dads for our kids. And you
Yeah.
know what? We as adults don't say that enough to our partners.
It's so true. It's so true. Thanks for the reminder because I'm not one to say that often myself. I didn't grow up in a family where that word was used very often. And so it doesn't come naturally. It doesn't really, you're so right. It does not come naturally. We have to really remind ourselves. And so I literally look through the chapters of the book sometimes myself, and I love writing blogs, as you know, and
Mm-hmm.
all that because it reminds me what I need to do. Stop trying to get my husband to change, which was always my tendency. My mom passed away about 10 years ago, but she was very much in favor of me writing these articles because she knew that she had done some damage with always trying to, like point the finger at her ex-husband, my dad. And, it almost became like, I don't know, like a standard line in my family. It's like, don't trust men and don't admit you made a mistake. And so I always, in the beginning of my second marriage, would look for Craig to change and not look at myself with what I could do to make our relationship stronger. And that got changed drastically after I started writing the book.
Well, your mom reminds me of my mom, who's still around, and that is
Uh-huh.
I grew up with her catchphrase was "All men are pigs." So
Right.
I'm like, well, you raised me, mom.
Yeah. Yeah, that's unfortunate, but we're recreating different kinds of lives. And I had a lot of forgiveness from my mom because she had quite a bit of pain in relationships and struggled, and I don't see any of that as purposeful, Tommy, but it left an impact. And it's not a coincidence that I write so much about trust and rebuilding trust and extending trust and not assuming the worst because it can really set you down the wrong path when you're thinking, oh, he's going away on a trip. Like my husband loves to ride his bicycle, and he told me he's going to go on this long bicycling trip to raise money for the environment. First thought in my head was, where is he going? Who's he going with? I invited. Instead of, oh, have a great time. And I finally realized I didn't say any of this out loud that it's totally great and wonderful for him to do this 5-day trip with this group of people. And it has nothing to do with not wanting to be with me.
Right.
It's just like, but it's easy to get off course. And he even noticed, he said, "You're not asking me any questions about this trip, this fundraising climate change bicycle ride." I said, "Well, I admit I'm feeling kind of threatened by it."
And what was his response?
"What are you threatened about?" And I said, "Well, I'm thinking you'll meet all these people and have all these opportunities." I couldn't believe I said that after almost 23 years of marriage. We're almost, and he goes, "What are you thinking about that? You think I'm going to meet someone else and go off with them?" And I said, "I guess there's a little glimmer of that in the back of my mind." And he just like rolled his eyes. And I think he was really surprised that I still had those trust issues. And they don't crop up too often because we don't travel often away from each other. But during times where we do, I admit that insecurity comes in.
Wow. That's actually wonderful to hear, Terry.
Thanks for listening and knowing that we're all vulnerable to the
Yes.
baggages that we have, right? We have baggage. I have baggage, and I write about it in the book.
Another thing to stay on the emotional connection, and I have a little arrow next to it. They make sex a priority, not just the last item of a long to-do list. And
Mm-hmm.
the way I picture that is, well, it's the end of the day. We're both in bed. Let's just, get on with it.
Right.
But it shouldn't, like you say in the book, a long to-do list. It should, in my view, is, why does it have to be at the end of the day? Why can't it be, it's a Sunday afternoon or what have you? And I do
Mm-hmm.
think that couples do get into those ruts.
Definitely. So many couples go even months or even years, Tommy, when they come to visit me in my office or now online. Unfortunately, I'm not meeting anyone in person at the moment, but they tell me stories about how they haven't had sexual intimacy in months or years, and it's hard to get that flame going again and get excited about it unless you have an intention to do so and you're able to communicate and talk about sensual sexual matters. They're squeamish, they're shy to talk about what their needs are. But maybe you need to, rent a hotel room, maybe you need to go camping and have sex under the stars or whatever, to really kind of reignite that passion that hopefully you did have originally. Because most of us did have, that limerence, that passion in the beginning, but through day-to-day life and raising kids and working and having different schedules, it's rough to do that. So you have to set the stage for it and unplug from technology and, light a candle, whatever you need to do, have a, different kind of a meal or different time of day, as you said, and a lot of affection. I write in that chapter about the importance of physical affection, cuddling, touching. Dr. Gottman gave me an idea which I thought was priceless, and that's a 6-second kiss,
Hmm.
which you can have anytime, but it really works well at the start of the day when you're departing from one another or when you reunite at the end of the day. So you just basically take the time to touch each other on the shoulder or give each other a hug. Try more than one type of physical contact, but give each other, doesn't have to be exactly 6 seconds, but give each other a kiss on the lips as a way to connect. And So my husband liked that idea, and we started doing that a few years ago. And I'm not saying we do it every day, but it's a good one.
Again, like I said, Terry, my marriage is going to change after speaking with you today.
Right.
The the one topic that I know I've talked to other couples about, you've talked to couples about, I mean, you put in your book, and that's the financial piece and making
Uh-huh.
sure that you are open and honest. And one of the things um, my wife and I did years ago, we actually went through it twice, was we went through Dave Ramsey's uh, Financial Peace University.
Uh-huh.
But I feel that that is a topic that I think it's more taboo talking about finances than sex when it comes to
Oh yeah,
new couples.
definitely. Yeah, I found so much secrecy in the couples I interviewed, so much really financial infidelity. Um, and then once again, I looked at myself while I was interviewing the couples, and I said, "Oh my God, I'm actually guilty of this myself." When I got remarried, I hid some credit card bills. I didn't really want to disclose financial issues, and I was very, very reluctant because I didn't grow up that way. Sharing fully disclosing financial matters. And my first husband and I kept finances separate. And so I thought this is a very important topic. And while it causes stress and a lot of people are reluctant to disclose and be very open about their finances from the past and how they want to deal with money, meeting with someone like you did, forming a relationship with a financial planner or taking a class and having regular times that you check in with each other about money matters can really improve your marriage greatly. And then you find you might even have a similar vision for the future. I know we do now. It's like, okay, maybe eventually you want to buy a second home or take more vacations, but you've got to plan it and you've got to really be honest with each other. And it doesn't come easily because we're so used to, I think, being wary and squeamish about our finances. And sometimes people have loans that they take out and they don't tell their partner about, or they loan money to one of their kids. That happened in a few of the couples where a biological parent loaned money to their own child and didn't tell their new spouse, and then the spouse found out about it. I mean, that kind of stuff can really breed a lot of animosity.
And that's so key is the honesty when it comes to finances. And it took, my wife and I, when we first got married, I had my accounts, she had her accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of us knew who was paying what bills until, one day my wife came to me and just said, enough's enough. We need to figure this out. And she's kept stressing, we need to be a team. We are not partners. And that really hit home for me, Terry, because I could see myself in my first marriage where it wasn't a team. It was she handled all the bills. I was left in the dark. My new wife, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Her husband made the money, so he knew he controlled where money was going, and so we both said, "You're right. We need to figure this out." And because of that, we've been able to, pay off things. We've been able to do things because we've talked about it. And matter of fact, Sunday nights, I come
Right.
I come into her home office. We talk about, okay, what bills need to be paid, what money do we have to move to savings and things like that. But it is so important to have the word you were using, trust. You have to have that trust with your partner because it is a partnership.
Sure. No, it doesn't come easily to people, and it's not a topic that people naturally say, oh, I really want to talk about money. So that's why you have to be very intentionally, focused on it and have a stress reducing conversation where you're not blaming each other, but you're owning up to, oh, yeah, I decided I wanted to purchase this or that, or one of our kids needed, some financial help, or, um, I'm donating a little more money to church this month because I have a project going on that I believe in, and just be forthcoming about it and open to feedback. Um, and you might find you can compromise about a lot of issues. And after a while, it becomes less anxiety provoking.
Exactly. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that is your yes. Yes, because you, having that open honest dialogue and not having to sneak around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I'm
Yeah,
telling you, Terry.
a lot of people talk about sexual infidelity, which of course is a whole nother topic, which I don't cover in the book, but they don't talk about financial infidelity. And a lot of people asked me, Tommy, what was one of my biggest surprises in interviewing the couples? And it was how common that was. And I realized, well, yeah, it's common. I've been doing this myself. You want to put your best foot forward. You don't want to, when you get remarried, you don't want to say, hey, guess what? I have, $10,000 worth of credit card debt. You want to inherit that? All right.
Right.
I loaned my child some money, or I spent money, and but one of the couples that I interviewed, name remains anonymous. The father was sending his biological kids to expensive camps, and not telling the wife about how much the camps were costing because they had separate accounts, separate bank accounts. And second wife found out about it, and she was really hurt because they had two children of their own, mutual children. And she was, scrimping and trying to come up with enough money for them to go to this like local camp. And so these financial issues can be very volatile, and they can be very damaging unless you're able to sort them through and realize, okay, maybe there's a way that everybody can have some of their needs met here. But when you marry someone that has children, you marry the whole family. And I'm not saying don't keep some finances separate. Some people have a shared pot where they combine finances, a common pot of money, and then they have their separate accounts. But if people keep all of their money separately and they never talk about it at all, that can breed a lot of mistrust and financial infidelity.
So true. Well, I know you're on a time constraint, Terry, so I appreciate your time. The new book, The Remarriage Manual, How to Make Everything Work Better the Second Time Around. Before I ask you the last question, Terry, let the listeners know how they can get this awesome book.
Well, they can get it on my website, because if you Google or type in movingpastdivorce.com, that's movingpastdivorce.com, you'll see right on the homepage, it says the Remarriage Manual, learn more. You click onto that, you go to the book page, and on the book page, you see so many different ways to buy the book. The book was published by Sounds True, which is it's actually based in Colorado.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, publisher. But that you can buy it on Amazon if you just want to use Amazon because it's nice and quick, and you want to get some used copies, you can buy it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Some bookstores have it. Barnes and Noble carries it if you have those in your area, but pretty easy to purchase. And it's going to be, the good news I just found out fairly recently is I just sold the rights to Penguin Random House to make it into an audiobook.
Awesome. Are you going to read it?
Well, I'm going to listen to it.
You're not going to read it?
No, I'm not going to read it. I'm not. They hired their own actress, which I'm very pleased about. Thank you.
Oh.
Compliment, but No, they asked me to do that selection with them, and I was more than glad to help them pick the reader. But
Congratulations, anyway, Terry, on that.
thank you.
All right. So the last question is, Terry, if you could step into my shoes, what would you have asked yourself that I did not ask you? If you could step into my shoes, actually, I'm wearing no shoes, socks. What would you have asked that I did not ask?
Well, I might ask something like this, Tommy. What is the importance of forgiveness in a second marriage, and why did I make that the last chapter of the book? And I would answer to that being able to forgive yourself for those blunders that we talked about during our interview today, and being able to forgive your partner and realize that some of what people do that's hurtful is not intentional, it's not on purpose. And that to see that it's a good thing to accept an apology and to freely give them is all part of what I would consider a repair practice or recovery method that can help you move on from regrettable comments and actions, and to see that we're all human, we all have flaws. And so the last chapter of the book, I think, was really meaningful for me because that's an issue I've really struggled with in my life. And it helped me to see that so much of what happened in my family growing up, what happened in my first marriage, was truly not intentional in the sense of trying to be hurtful. And if I could forgive these people and also myself, I could certainly have a happier life.
Follow up. Have you forgiven yourself?
For the most part, I can be a little hard on myself at times, but I don't blame myself like I used to for my divorce. I don't, second guess myself and say, why didn't I pick someone who was, a better long-term partner? Why did I stay in an unhappy marriage too long? I had a lot of those self-doubts and like a more critical inner self, self-talk that I did for many years. It can take quite a while to recover, as you know, from divorce.
Yes.
Quite a while. So, but I've learned to do that, and I've been friendly with my ex-husband pretty much through the years. But I think, I hope he feels the same, that we created two wonderful children together, and it has worked out for the best. That my second marriage is one that's growth oriented and evolving into a really, what I would consider, sustainable marriage, as opposed to one that wasn't really meant to last. But I also started off with a partner who also believed in recovery from, things that can be damaging, and moving on and getting help.
Terry, I want to thank you for your open and your honesty, the time we've just spent together, because I always get a little nervous, and I know you're not this type of person, but I always get nervous around some of the um, experts because they're not vulnerable. They're not open. And I want to
Mhm.
say thank you so much, Terry, because again, I love the remarriage manual. I love it. But talking to you today, we are flawed human beings. And having open dialogue with you, Terry, I just I just can't thank you enough.
You're welcome. My pleasure, Tommy. It was a great opportunity to talk about my book, and I felt very great about our conversation. I think it moved in a really natural way. Flowed well.
Well, good luck with the cabinets.
Thank you. I hope I don't need it, but yeah, I might.
Don't forget to pick up my book, My Dad's Advice, at 5:04 a.m. at mydadsadvicebook.com, mydadsadvicebook.com. Hey, what's your favorite episode with Otis?